Welcome to Module 2, Lesson 12. In Lesson 11, we had a chance to review the rules of, come up with the rules for multiplication. And if you recall, we saw that when we multiply a positive times a positive, it equals a positive. And a negative times a negative equals a positive. A positive times a negative equals a negative, and a negative times a positive equals a negative. And you notice that when the signs were different, it gave a negative answer or product. But when the signs were the same, it gave you a positive product. Okay, so we're going to need that information as we're looking at division. So some key vocabulary is, notice the dividend, the divisor, and the quotient. Now, one way you can remember which one is the answer is the one that starts with a different letter. So remember that every division problem is also can be written as a fraction. And these, of course, when we're doing scratch work, we would write it like this. This would be your dividend. And I used to tell students, dividend is in, the divisor is at the door, if that helps you. And then your quotient. So looking at this first thing, we want to think back to fact families from when you were in elementary school. So fact families consisted of several equations that all related to each other. For example, 4 times 6 equals 24. 6 times 4 equals 24. Then, of course, if we go backwards, 24 divided by 4 equals 6. And 24 divided by 6 equals 4. Now we're going to take that information and we're going to use positive and negatives of those. So we're going to use those whole numbers and also use their inverses or their negatives. And we're going to make as many different multiplication problems as we can. So we're going to use the numbers 4, 6, 24, negative 4, negative 6, and negative 24. And come up with as much as we can. So 4 times negative 6 would equal negative 24. Negative 4 times 6 is equal to negative 24. 4 times 6 is equal to 24. And negative 4 times negative 6 is equal to 24. Well, let's rearrange our multipliers. Negative 6 times 4 is equal to negative 24. 6 times negative 4 is equal to negative 24. 6 times 4 equals 24. And negative 6 times negative 4 is equal to 24. And those are the commutative property of multiplication, which simply says that you can change its location in multiplication and you will still have the same product. So if we come down here, let's figure out that relationship as we move into division. So going back to fact families, negative 6 times 4 is equal to negative 24. Using integers now, because now we're looking at integer fact families. And then negative 4 times 6 is equal to negative 24. And negative 6 times negative 4 is equal to 24. And 6 times 4 is equal to 24. Now, many times people will leave this one off in the fact family, but because it's like an elementary multiplication problem, but it is still two integers being multiplied together. So now we want to find the related division. So we're looking for division problems that go with all of these. And let's see how many we can get. Negative 24 divided by 4 is equal to negative 6. Negative 24 divided by 6 is equal to negative 4. 24 divided by negative 6 is equal to negative 4. And 24 divided by 6 is equal to 4. We're not done. So we've divided by a positive 4. Let's do a negative 4. Negative 24 divided by negative 4 is equal to 6. Negative 24 divided by negative 6 is equal to 4. 24 divided by, instead of negative 6, let's do positive 6. Well, we've got that one down here. Let's do negative 4 is equal to negative 6. And then 24 divided by 4 is equal to positive 6. Okay, so I'm just checking myself. Same sign, different sign, negative. Same sign, positive, same sign, positive, different signs, negative, different signs, negative, different signs, negative, same signs, positive. So I use those same positive and negative rules in doing that one. So now I want to move on to kind of answering some questions and looking at some next thoughts, and I'm going to keep that so I can reference it to the side there. And I want to think about some examples of division problems that produce a quotient that is a negative number. So I'm just going to go back to my list, and I'm going to list all the division problems that gave me a negative answer. So remember, this is your answer. So if I look back, I see that negative 24 divided by 4 was equal to negative 6. And negative 24 divided by 6 is equal to negative 4. And 24 divided by negative 6 was equal to negative 4. Still looking for those negative quotients. And then 24 divided by negative 4 is equal to negative 6. All right. Now, if the quotient is a negative number, what must be must be true about the signs of the dividend and divisor? Remember, going back to this triangle, or I haven't probably really talked about the triangle much. This triangle is what I use to help me. And if I see a single negative, the minute I see a negative, I realize that I have to have all three of those signs. So if my quotient is negative, then my dividend and my divisor have to be opposite signs. Now let's test that. Let's look up here. If my quotient is negative, then my other two have to be different signs, and they are. Okay, so the dividend and the divisor, they are different signs. And I really use that triangle a lot to help me out. Now list your examples where it gives you a positive. Well, if there's 4 here, there's going to be 4 with positives. So looking for those positives, 24 divided by 6 equals 4. negative 24 divided by negative 4 is equal to 6. Negative 24 divided by negative 6 is equal to 4. And then 24 divided by 4 is equal to 6. So the reverse here, if the quotient is a positive number, what is true about the dividend and the divisor? If you notice, they have to have the same sign. So let's come up with our rules. There's two rules. If the divisor and the dividend, if the quotient is negative, then the divisor and the dividend have different signs. But if the quotient is positive, the divisor and the dividend have the same signs. Now let's take a look at, is the quotient of two integers always an integer? Well, folks, sometimes you just need to test it and see. So let's just come up with, let's use what we've got. Negative 24 divided by 4 equals negative 6. That's an integer. 4 is an integer. And negative 6 is an integer. So it works there. But what if I change things around? What if I did 4 divided by negative 24? Well, that doesn't equal negative 6. Let's rewrite that as a fraction so I can see what it looks like. Oh, that can't even be one whole because the top number is smaller. The numerator is smaller. So now let's see, can I simplify that? Both numbers can be divided by 4. So it is 1 over negative 6, or just negative 1/6, so they're the same thing. Well, this is an integer, and this is an integer, but this, or those, are fractions, which are rational numbers. They are not integers. Remember, an integer is a whole number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And its inverse or opposite, 1, 2, 3. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So this one, it does not work. So the answer to this would be sometimes. Okay, on this bottom part right here, I'm going to let you test these, but I'm going to give you a hint on this last one. Negative parentheses 14 divided by 7. So it's asking you to solve the 14 divided by 7 first. So that becomes negative 14 divided by 7, which is equal to negative the answer, the opposite of the answer, and the opposite would be negative 2. Now I want you to pause the video, and I want you to solve A and B by yourself, and then decide, are the answers to the three quotients below the same or different? Why or why not? Okay, you're back. So negative 14 divided by 7 is equal to negative 2. Well, so far those two are the same. And you can also write it as a fraction, those which it asks us to do. And then that's equal to 14 divided by negative 7, which equals negative 2, which is also the same. So they're all the same. And if I'm looking, I'm seeing the placement of the negative is what's changing. So I'm finding that as long as there's one negative, then they're all going to have the same answer because the placement of that negative did not change the outcome. Okay? It didn't change the outcome. So final thought is this is actually, I'm going to come back to this, this is actually the rule for division. And that is that all three of these provided that you're not dividing by zero.